for those of you who are looking to buy a paint sprayer because you want to paint your own furniture or do projects at home, we're going to try to narrow it down and help to get through all of the information that's just so overwhelming whenever you're looking at paint sprayers. Let's go through some of the reasons why you might buy a paint sprayer. You've been painting furniture for quite a while and reselling it, doing it by hand, brush, roller, what have you. Why would you buy a paint sprayer? Well, because it's so fast. It really is. It cuts down the time
5 to 10 times faster depending on what type of paint.
That's even factoring in cleanup time and setup time. And if time is money, it's going to pay for itself. There are a few things that you cannot do with a paint sprayer. Let's say that you do a lot of blending. It's more difficult with a sprayer.
Let's go into some of the paint sprayers that I have used personally and that I am more familiar with. And one of them that we're going to talk about is the Graco project sprayers, 360 DS and the Graco 360 VSP. I personally bought the Graco DS and found that, to me, it did not suit my needs. I felt like it put out a lot of product very quickly. I move my paint sprayer very quickly whenever I am spraying, but I could not get that to work for me. Other people use it, they love it, they've learned to work with it, but I just couldn't get it to work for me. The VSP though does have some control. The DS has 2 speeds. One is 900 PSI, the other I believe is 1500. So even the 900 just put up too much product for me. VSP has 10 pressure settings that go from 500 to 1500, I believe it is. And that probably would have been much better for my personal use. They're great for doing furniture projects and so forth. I think that if you were going to paint a room or, you know, a garden fence that was quite long, you may struggle because the cups are quite small. I believe they're 32 ounce on the DS and the VSP is 42 ounce. So you're still going to be filling that cup quite a bit. They are relatively inexpensive. They are a true airless, meaning they do not have a turbine. It is just plug it in and spray. Another good benefit of the Graco sprayers are that they are portable. If you were working at home, if you were working in the shop, if you were working in your garage and then you wanted to go into the basement or what have you, you just take the whole thing with you. A downside that I also found to it was that it's quite bulky. And if you were trying to spray someplace tight, you'd struggle to get that in there. I'm not sure that you would actually manage it. But again, there are ways to work around that. If you wanted to, say, roll something that tight and then spray the rest, you could do that quite easily. You could make it work. The weight of it with the motor and the cup full of paint, it's got some weight to it. So that's another thing that you may want to think about. If you've got wrist problems or something, then you may want to adjust which one that you want, whether you want a 42 ounce or whether you want a 32 ounce or whether you want to go a different direction. Another thing that I really want to cover just for safety's sake is that with the Graco 360 VSP and the 360 DS, they do not recommend that you use a flammable material. So anything oil-based, you would need to step up. And I believe that they do have 2 other sprayers that you can spray flammable materials with, and those would be fine, but they do not recommend it with those 2. I believe they've put a grounding pin in the other ones that makes sure that there's no spark and no chance of fire. They range in price between $160 and $300 depending on which one that you actually purchase. So they're not terribly expensive. and it's kind of an all-in-one package. So now we're going to move on to the Harbor Freight sprayer. And this is a sprayer that I started out with. I sprayed a lot of cabinets for a kitchen, some custom paint that I did on cabinets that Alex had made. So I'm quite familiar with this sprayer. A lot of people start out with this sprayer and it works just fine. There are some quirks to it that, you know, you quickly get used to. Once you start using a sprayer and it's your sprayer, you get used to how it feels, how it works. So it's, all of them have little things that you wish were changed or that were different, but you will get used to whatever sprayer and you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. This sprayer is quite inexpensive. The sprayer itself runs about $14 at Harbor Freight. Paint goes in here. The cleanup on it is pretty easy, but it does take some time. You're going to have to take it apart. The Graco that we were just speaking of, it's a little bit easier on cleanup. Basically with that one, you fill it full of water, shake, spray, and repeat the process until it starts spraying clean water and you've cleaned out your nozzles. That's about it. This one's a little bit more because you're going to have to take it all apart, throw it into a bucket of water, and clean out your sprayer. You're going to want to be sure that you always have a filter inside of it when you're spraying, just to be sure there's no trash in there. And it doesn't matter which spray gun that you use. I cannot emphasize this enough. Always strain your paint before you start spraying. This one you will need a compressor with. The compressor, an inexpensive one that will have the power that you need to run this gun, runs about 170. So you're going to factor that in as well. Most of those compressors are also going to require a little bit of maintenance. You're going to have to put oil in most of them. Most of the very small pancake compressors will not run this gun. This gun will require 6 CFM. So that's 6 cubic feet per minute of pressure. Now, when you're shopping for a compressor, they're going to come with all kinds of numbers on them. Most compressors are geared towards the auto industry or construction tools. So those numbers are not that relevant to using a sprayer. There's only a few numbers that will matter for the purposes for using a sprayer. Most any compressor that you buy will have enough PSI to run an HVLP sprayer. You want to look at how many gallons of air that compressor is going to hold. The bigger the tank, the more air you'll have, but it doesn't really matter how big that compressor is. HVLP takes a lot of air, so that compressor is going to kick on. That compressor is going to have to replenish that air in the tank. The absolute most important number to look at is the Scfm or CFM. The CFM is for cubic foot per minute. And that's what's going to determine whether that compressor is actually going to run your HVLP gun. So when you're shopping, they're going to give you the CFM at 90 PSI, but you're only going to be running 40 PSI. So if possible, try to find the CFM rating at 40 PSI. What this all means is that if your compressor is too small, it's gonna stop, start, and you don't want that to happen. Most of the time, an 8-gallon compressor is gonna be about the smallest that you can go for an HVLP gun. Another thing is if you get a compressor, you're going to find that there are other things that you can do with it besides run your spray gun. And things like if you do upholstery, you may need an upholstery gun and you'll need that compressor to run that. So if you take the backs off of things, like I took the back off of this piece to paint the inside, it just made it easier to do. But having a compressor, I was able to use the nail gun to be able to put that back piece back on properly. So doing repairs on drawer runners, things like that, I find that I use the nail gun quite a bit for that. So there are some other advantages to having a compressor. Disadvantage, it's loud. It's really loud. So for the Harbor Freight gun, you're going to need your compressor and your hose. All in, you're probably looking at about $200 for that setup. Now we can talk about the gun that I am the most familiar with. This is the one that I use all the time. I absolutely love this gun. This is also an HVLP, but instead of a compressor, it uses a turbine. Takes up very little space in my shop. This is the whole setup here. It is powerful. I can spray chalk paint all the way down to top coats and even stains if I wanted to. Because it's a turbine, I never have to worry that I'm going to run out of air or spray faster than the turbine can keep up with. So I can just continuous spray. It is about the same noise level as a big shop vac. So a little bit less noise than a compressor, but it still makes quite a bit of noise. It's got filters on it that you just take out and wash. So this is your maintenance, is that you just pull these out, wash them off in the sink, soap water, let them dry overnight, put them back in. I do that not as often as I should, but every once in a while. It's got another one on this side, same thing, take it out, wash it, put it back in. The gun itself, adjustable in the fact that you can adjust your spray pattern. You can dial the air down or up depending on how much product that you want coming out of this gun. This is pressurized, so it's never going to drip or come out until you want it to. Cleanup is pretty easy. Everything comes apart. I just throw it into a cup. My tip, my needle comes out the back. Throw it all in a cup and then run water through, and once it comes out clean, I just hang it up and I'm done. The real downside to this gun is the cost. It is quite expensive. This is kind of a mid-range expense when it comes to their line. This is a Semi-Pro 2, and it is specifically for doing small projects like furniture painting. This is my full-time job, is doing furniture, refinishing furniture, painting furniture. So that is how I justified the cost. There are a lot of turbine units out there that are, I'm sure, just as good. This is just the one that I chose. I'm not sponsored by them. I get no free product from them, but if they would like to send me some, I'm happy to take it. But this is the best gun that I have used yet out of these that I've shown you. I can get a beautifully smooth finish every time, and it's so quick. This unit, once it's taped off and all the prep work is done, I can usually have it sprayed in under 10 minutes. It takes me longer to clean the gun, yes, than it does to spray it, but it's still quite a time saver. With this unit, I do not need a compressor or anything else. It's got a bit of weight to it, but I can still pick it up by the handle. If I were going to a job site to paint cabinets or whatever, I'd have no problem popping this in the back of my vehicle and going. So much easier than moving a compressor. You can buy different size nozzles and needles for this set, and probably as well with most of the other sets. I know you can with the Graco. You can buy different size tips for it to spray different viscosities of product. I have bought a different size needle set to go with this so that I can spray chalk paint and thicker products. In most HVLPs, you will have to thin them down some. I found with this one, I really don't need to thin down if I don't want to, but a lot of times I do. It does come with a viscosity cup. It also comes with a chart. Yours would not be as dirty as this because mine's been hanging in my spray room. That helps you to know how quickly your product should run through that viscosity cup to be able to spray through your sprayer. And that makes it quite easy to tell whether you've thinned it down enough or not. Most stuff is about 10% if you're going to thin down. This sprayer runs about $4.89, and that's your turbine, your sprayer. It is plug and play. So everything that you need to start spraying that day comes in that package. It also comes with quite a long hose. You can order a shorter hose to go with this. This works for my paint room, but if you're working in a smaller area or spraying inside of a booth, you may want to invest in ordering a smaller hose. If you'd like more information or another video on spraying techniques and tips, leave a comment in the section below, and I will try and get that done if it's something that you're interested in. If you have any more questions, please feel free to put them in the comments and I'll try and answer those. All of the products in this video will be linked in the more section under the video. So I hope this helped some of you. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support is just greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. This video sucks already. I'm already bored and clicked off. I'm being forced to do the numbers and I hate doing the numbers. I just want to spray and go. Don't you just want to spray and go? I just want to spray and go. Okay, moving on.
I don't know if it'd be better if I did it.
I think it might, but nobody's going to listen to you either. This is so boring.
All right.
I'm gonna put my head in here.
We can get into the stuff that's interesting now.
And with that line, I've just lost every woman viewer that I've ever had. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.